Do you know who transformed the way we use technology? Steve Jobs is a name everyone knows. He's the man behind the iPhone, but his life wasn't just about success, it was full of challenges, lessons, and determination. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, wasn't just a brilliant inventor, he was a man with a fascinating personal and professional journey. Today, in this podcast, we'll explore his inspiring story while improving your English. Along the way, you'll hear key words and phrases, explained naturally in context. Let's get started. Early life and education. Steve Jobs was born in San Francisco in 1955. His biological parents were young students who couldn't care for him, so he was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs, a working-class couple. It means Steve Jobs was raised as their son even though they were not his birth parents. Steve's adoptive father was a mechanic and taught him to work with his hands, building and repairing things. This sparked Steve's love for technology. As a child, Steve was incredibly curious, always asking questions and wanting to know how things worked. This curiosity, or eagerness to learn, stayed with him throughout his life. Steve wasn't the best student in school. Despite not being the most disciplined student, Steve was extremely curious and creative. He was more interested in creative projects than following rules. Creative, as you know, means thinking of new and different ideas. Even as a kid, Steve thought outside the box, and this set him apart. He had a unique ability to think differently and solve problems in unconventional ways. It means Steve Jobs approached problems in unique and original ways that were not typical or expected. Personal life insight, family dynamics. Steve had a close bond with his adoptive parents, which means he was deeply connected to them. They encouraged his love of learning, despite financial challenges. Steve always wondered about his biological family. Later in life, he discovered his biological sister, Mona Simpson, a famous writer. The two developed a close relationship. However, his personal relationships weren't always easy. Steve had a daughter, Lisa, with his girlfriend Chris and Brennan. At first, Steve denied paternity. It means he denied being her father, but later, he acknowledged Lisa. It means he accepted and admitted her as his daughter. They reconciled and built a strong relationship, and Lisa became an important part of his life. The college dropout. After high school, Steve went to Reed College, but he dropped out after just 6 months, feeling that formal education wasn't for him. He felt the classes weren't worth the cost and didn't inspire him. Although he left college, he didn't stop learning. Steve attended calligraphy classes, where he learned about beautiful writing and design. This later influenced Apple's elegant fonts and product designs. So, even though dropping out may seem like a failure for Steve, it was an opportunity to follow his true interests. Opportunity here means a chance to do something important or valuable. Career beginnings. The birth of Apple. In 1976, Steve Jobs and his friend Steve Wozniak started Apple in Steve's parents' garage. A garage is just a place for cars, but for Steve, it became a space for innovation and big ideas. Their first product, the Apple I, was a simple computer, but it laid the foundation for the modern personal computer. Foundation means the base or starting point for something. It was a basic computer, but it changed how people thought about technology. It was simple, useful, and ahead of its time. Setbacks and comebacks. By 1985, Apple was incredibly successful and grew quickly, but Steve faced a massive setback. He was fired from his own company. A setback is a problem that slows you down or stops progress. Imagine being fired from your own company. He was forced out of the company he had co-founded. Instead of giving up, Steve started a new company called Next and invested in Pixar, a small animation studio at the time. Pixar later produced Toy Story, which became a huge success. Steve's resilience, or his ability to recover from difficulties, was remarkable. He didn't let failure stop him. Instead, he used it to grow. Personal life insight, marriage and fatherhood. In 1991, Steve married Laureen Powell. The couple had 3 children together and tried to keep their family life private. Private means keeping things personal and not for the public to see. Despite his demanding career, Steve valued spending time with his family. It means he saw his family as important and made time for it. Steve's return to Apple and success. In 1997, Apple was struggling, and they brought Steve back to help. He introduced groundbreaking products like the iPod, iPhone, and iPad, which revolutionized or completely changed the technology. His vision wasn't just about innovation, it was about making technology simple and beautiful. These devices didn't just work well, they were beautiful and easy to use. Legacy and life lessons. Steve Jobs passed away in 2011 after battling cancer. Despite his death, his legacy, or what he left behind, continues to shape the world. One of his most famous quotes is, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." This reminds us to follow our passions and take risks. Let's quickly review some important words from today's story and see how many of these words you can use in your own sentences. Try writing 1 or 2 examples in the comments below. Adopted. Legally taken and raised as a child by people who are not the biological parents. Example. After losing her parents, Maria was adopted by a kind family who raised her with love. Adoptive. Describes someone who has legally taken a child into their family to raise as their own. Example. The adoptive mother was proud to see her son graduate from college. Curiosity. Wanting to learn or know more. Example. Her curiosity about space led her to study astronomy. Creative. Thinking in new, different ways. Example. Writing a story requires a creative mind and a vivid imagination. Unconventional. Not following traditional or usual methods, different or unique. Example. His unconventional ideas were initially criticized but later admired for their brilliance. Inspire. To encourage someone to do or feel something creative or positive. Example. Nature can inspire artists to create beautiful works of art. Paternity. The state of being someone's father. Example. The father filed for a paternity test to prove he was the child's biological parent. Acknowledge. To accept or admit something as true. Example. He finally acknowledged that his sister's advice had helped him succeed. Reconcile. To restore a good relationship after a conflict. Example. After years of conflict, the brothers decided to reconcile and restore their relationship. Setback. A problem that delays or slows progress. Example. A minor injury caused a setback in his marathon training. Resilience. The ability to recover from difficulties. Example. Her resilience after the accident showed how strong and determined she was. Legacy. What someone leaves behind after they're gone. Example. His greatest legacy was the foundation he created to support education. Private. Not shared with the public. Example. She prefers to keep her personal life private and doesn't share details online. Value. To consider something important. Example. The teacher values honesty and encourages her students to always tell the truth. Revolutionize. To completely change something in a way that makes it much better. Example. The smartphone revolutionized the way people communicate and access information. Drop out. To leave school, college, or a program before completing it. Example. Many students drop out of college because they can't afford the tuition fees. Spark. To start or cause something to happen. Example. Her teacher's encouragement sparked her interest in learning a new language. Steve Jobs' life teaches us that success isn't just about talent, it's about persistence and learning from failure. His story reminds us that failure isn't the end, it's just a step on the journey to success. What part of Steve Jobs' life inspired you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share this video with friends who want to learn English and be inspired by great stories. See you next time.